So we're going to start the third round of turn 5. Usually turns will take between 2 and 3 rounds. Historically, that's what I found. Sometimes you can get as much as 4 or 5 rounds, but that's very rare because it takes you a certain amount of time and you have 5 minutes on each timer. Incidentally, on this video, it looks like the turn lasts forever. It takes about an hour, but that's not true. Turns can take 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Long in this video because obviously I'm taking twice or 3 times as long explaining all the rules to you guys, and I'm accounting for that with the timers. I'm making it realistic. So let's go on to another round of this turn. The Nationalists have the initiative, and they're going to roll the dice for events. 11. That hasn't been played yet. And it says, the forced collectivization of the Catalan economy during the previous winter results in a fall in production. That's historical. The Republicans lose 15 RPs. So you see now, it's getting to be difficult for them because they now lose 15 of these points. It's certain that both forces are going to need to access their finances in order to bankroll the next combats. The Nationalists draw 3 cards. 2 of those are for the opponent, and they get only this one. They now have 1 minute to study their cards and strategy. They're in a bit of a pickle here. You can see that we didn't want to get rid of the German card because it's so valuable to be able to trade the Rio Tinto. So we could trade that now if we want to and put the card back in circulation after this turn because they all get shuffled together after the whole turn is done. Or we keep on saving it, in which case we only have 2 points to do anything there. 2 points is not going to cut it for the land strategy because look, they are going to try to take Badajoz here before the enemy can intervene. Even if they attack Badajoz now, the Reds have a chance to unload this because this has already been, as if you recall, just recently we were able to resolve the air combat here and these got safely by where they can unload. And for that, I mean, they're going to have to reinforce. So that's going to cost 3 points here. Well, 2 points, 1, 2, and 3 to reinforce, to resupply these forces. And that alone takes a lot of money. The other thing they want to do perhaps is that since they were victorious in the north, maybe carry the fight out. And they already have a core here, Castilla. So maybe attack there and finish off the north. So that might be another of their strategies. And another opportunity here, the Republicans are completely bare in that area there. And often here's the case. The card does not give you enough points to conduct all this strategy there, Extremadura, and in the east there, Aragon. So sometimes you got to choose, and this is where the time element also comes into play, right? So for all these ambitions, they're going to need more than 2 points. So they're almost forced to play this if they want to carry anything out, even for defensive purposes. You know, you don't want to just play 2 things and then let the Reds have the opportunity to, and the Reds have a lot of cards, right? So they can pick and choose what they are going to do. Plus they have naval, maybe they'll launch another naval operation here. Actually, they probably can't because they have no more ships. They're all committed already. So it seems to be clear. Also, another thing to consider when you're choosing, do I play a big card for land actions or a small card? One thing to consider is how much time you have left. And if you analyze here without starting the timer, well, quickly, there's still, there's about a third of the time left there. So maybe about 2 minutes. And that is still plenty of time to do the strategy. If there was only a tiny bit of time, then you might as well just play the 2 card and save your money and just do a little bit of, maybe put some entrenchments. Who knows? Since we still have a lot there, then we can, it's a good bet to end the turn in strength. And remember, as long as they have time and they have time, the round continues, the turn continues. It's surely going to be the last one. And even if they only had a tiny bit of time, what would happen is these guys play for a good portion of time, which is about 2 minutes or so. And if these guys only had 20 seconds left in their timer, it is what it is. They play for as long as they can, and they play for whatever they have. So it just means that the Reds used more time than the Blues. But I think actually they're about the same. So let's get this started. I've been explaining all this, but all these would have gone in my head, all these considerations within a minute. After that minute, if I still haven't decided to start playing, this would forcibly be started. Of course, here it lasts longer because I'm explaining all this to you guys. But before we get started, since the finances are depleted and we can't do anything else, I only have 4 points for the Blues. Let's do this. We have to get more money in here. And the order is, it's always through tokens that we have to resupply. I mean, I can have mines, and I could sell the mines and so forth. The mines are sold, and then they are sold into tokens. You get tokens in exchange for these mines here. And after that, you can exchange the tokens. But you can only exchange the tokens, no matter what the amount is, you can only exchange the tokens once. It's basically one transaction for that turn. So what I'm going to do now, and you can say, why don't you use the credit? Because the credits cannot be accessed until you have no option. The credit is only there for if you are depleted of tokens or this is closed. So let me explain this again. First of all, I'm going to exchange the tokens. I want 75 points. I'm going to exchange 75. Put them on the box. And now I get this translated into 75. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There it is. So I got 75 now. And I make a note here that it is closed. So now I cannot do this again in this turn. Of course, we're close to the end of the turn, so we wouldn't be able to. But you'll be surprised. Later in the war, not too much later, in about 2 or 3 turns, when this really gets violent with a lot of heavy armies, especially attacks on Madrid. One single attack on Madrid can sometimes take up this whole, almost 100 points sometimes if you have like a lot of armies around it, as we've already shown in other videos before. So what happens is early on you get depleted, and then you access your resources there, and then you can't do it again. You're closed. So what happens is when you're closed or when you're open, you don't have any credits. When you're closed or when you're still open but you don't have any tokens, that's the only situation that you are able to go here and access the credit by putting this on 0 and then, in this case, putting 25 points there. So the order is this. First, use up your tokens, close the market there, and then after that, if you don't have anything else, you can access the credit. The mines themselves are exchanged only when you have cards, mines or gold reserves. In this case, look, I've explained all this before. You can exchange any gold reserves there if you're the red player. In this case, you can exchange 1 gold reserve and so forth. Other cards, like I just mentioned, the Rio Tinto mine. Most mines are not, they don't tell you exactly which one. But in this case, the Rio Tinto is a special case, so you're able to exchange that. So it's through the cards that you get rid of these and get tokens in return, and it's through events that you get credits that go up and down, right? I hope I explained that properly. I exchanged my things now, and because of that, I'm able to start the timer, and let's get going. I'm going to play this card, pay 10, and they're off and running with the timer. Let's do my actions. 1, 2, 3 points gone as I resupplied those forces. It's a no-brainer that I'm going to attack Badajoz now. That's 4 points. I don't need to put a triangle on this guy because he is linked by 1 transit point away through roads. So to all effects, this force here is part of this army's attack. This force, however, is not, because it's not linked. It's not 1 transit point away. So we're at 4 points. Another point to move, that makes 5. And now it is linked for this attack. So both of these guys here are linked to Yague's attack here to Badajoz. That's 5 points. See how quickly we spent 5 points? I got 5 more. This is where I decide. Am I going to go to attack Huesca, which used to belong to the nationalists, or am I going to move those forces and attack the north? Well, I think the north will have to wait. Let's attack Huesca because the Reds have nothing there. I'm sure they're going to reinforce after this. So another point. Well, I have to remove this, otherwise I can't attack, and this. So I got 5 points, 6, 7. Let's just stick with 7 for now. 8 to attack. And I'm tempted to just remove these with my last 2 points. Let me see if I'm going to do that. Remember, time keeps passing. Is there anything that is in danger here right now? The north could attack here, that's the case, but I don't think they will. But even if they do, look at this. If these guys attack here, this is 1 transit point away. So this will go in automatic in the defense of Pamplona without having to be moved. The same way, if this was here and this was under attack, this would be automatically defending that region there. I've explained this before. If you're on the road and you have infantry, that infantry is supporting in attack or defense anything that is in the next transit point by road. It wouldn't work here, for example, because as you can see here, Logorno is not linked by roads with these guys. It has to go through here. So the next transit point to Vitoria is this, the village called Miranda de Ebro, and that's what's the next one. So anything here could support here, but not here. So this is pretty safe here for now. Nothing else is threatening the north. Modesto could launch an attack anywhere here, but the militia that I have here is good enough. But just in case these plans aren't disrupted and we don't have any red forces coming through here, it's important to put a force here in the choke point. So, because if there's a choke point here, they can't pass through it. Right now, Modesto would be able to just go here if he wanted to with 1 single point or go south. So I'm going to spend 1 point to put this FET here, and I got 1 point left. And with that, yes, I'm going to resupply these guys. So that's all my 10 points done. Of course, this took a lot longer than 2 minutes because I was explaining it, but the point is that if I am playing and I'm still on point number 7 or number 8 or something, and I still haven't penned it, if the time runs out, I have to stop playing. I have to stop playing, and I cannot use the rest of the points that I paid for from that card. Now, whether you want to give yourself some grace, if you have give yourself another 30 seconds, or that's up to you. But the rules are laid down. Now, I'm going to do something else. Since I don't need time for that, I could just do it. I am going to play this as a Navy card. I would say that it's always good to keep some cards behind. The Joker card doesn't actually give you any points to play. It gives you a lot of things. You can study it in my Joker video. You can study what goes on here, but it's not going to give you any. So the only points I have right now for the next turn, when I start it, without picking cards, is this. Just imagine that on my first rounds of the next turn, which is going to be turn 6 over there, just imagine that the 3 cards that I draw are going to be red cards. That means that I'm stuck with only 2 little actions. I can only use this. So that's pretty bad. So that's why you always want to leave 1 or 2 cards here, just in case that happens. And it does happen. Obviously, you're taking 3 cards, and they might well all be yours, but they could also all be for the enemy. Usually there's always 1 card for at least one of the players, but might not be. But I'm going to go on a risk, because even if I was to not withdraw anything, I would still be stuck here with only 2 things. So I'm still going to use this. It's a little bit of a gamble, but I'm going to use this right now because I want to pay that 2, 1, 2, and move some more ships out there. Since I know the Republican Navy has already committed itself to protecting their convoys here. I want to take maybe 2 cruisers here and bring them to Gibraltar, the Gibraltar area. And now my turn is done. My time is gone completely, so there is no more turns. There's no more rounds possible. So whenever the red player, my enemy, whenever the red player finishes their time, and they could take, they're gonna use up all the time that they have there. Once that happens, because none of us have more time left, now we do the economy phase, which I'll explain after this, and then we go into a brand new turn, which is going to be turn number 6 there. So just to reiterate, remember, at every round, and there could be 2, 3, or 4, usually there's about 3 rounds in every turn. Each round, both the red and the blue player get to play once, and they play as long as they want. They could, if they wanted to, spend their whole time if they want, but that's not wise. You're not going to do only 1 round in the turn and use up your 5 minutes. So you play your cards, then the other guy plays, and whoever has the initiative starts that round first. So if you've been keeping up with us, you'll know that this is the 3rd round. We've already played 2 rounds. Each of us played 1, the blue and the red. Now the blue started round 3, and now the reds are going to finish round 3, and then we're done with the combat portion, action portion of this turn. And then we do the economy phase, which is quick, and we start a brand new turn. So now let's go for the reds. Events 12. That hasn't been played yet. There's no need to write it down because this is going to be our last event. So after this, in the next turn, we're going to start at 0 again for events. So number 12, let's see what we got here. July 1 to 2, the Spanish Catholic Church endorses the Franco regime, while his government insists on its rights as a belligerent power, and thus being recognized as an organized military power subject to the laws of war. Just a little historical note there. Franco wanted belligerent power because the Republic was the legitimate government, and that government was under attack by the nationalists. So the nationalists are not a government recognized by any other country. So Franco wanted recognition of nationalist Spain as its own country as quickly as possible, because that would give him the right, for example, to attack or to prevent British ships or any ships, including American ships, from supplying. Anyway, the rules say that the events say that they get 25 credit. So here it is. They have just amassed another 25 of credits. And just like they can win credit, they can also lose it based on events. So the credit is pretty independent from the game. It's more based on, it's one of the reflections of the possibilities in the international arena, what happens with Spain and how their actions are viewed by the world, the bankers and the other financial institutions that were supplying both sides, usually more the nationalists. That favored the nationalists, but it is the reds that are playing now. They're going to withdraw their 3 cards. And here it is. They got 1 for them, 2 for the opponent. Start the 1-minute timer, and they can study the cards that they have. So, a lot to choose from. We know that this is valuable. Country cards, especially that have gold, are valuable to enable you to change the... we try to keep the reserves out. We're going to use this one. I know we're going to use this one for an experience, most likely. We don't have commander cards for the reds, actually, here. But, for example, for the blues, we have Luis Orgaz, and that's a commander. Commander cards with qualities and combat cards. You can go to my cards video, and it explains all that. It allows you to have special qualities during combat. So, timer has gone now, and we play this. We pay 8. And us too, we are going to use our credit now. Get it right up there. Do the same thing as the opponent did. How much do we have here? We got 75. Put that there and get 75. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that correct? Yeah. And before we start the land action, we're not thinking about strategy anymore, but we are going to use this card right now for the Soviet Union. Might as well. Why do I want to do this? Because as long as the card is here without being played, it's just there and without any power. If I play it, and then at the end of the turn I reshuffle all these cards into the deck, into the fresh deck, they're all shuffled, then the card could even come up again on the next turn or on a couple of turns down, right? So if I already know what I'm going to do with it, I'm going to get more money, I might as well do it now, right? Because now I have no tokens, and that's not a good place to be in case I need it later. So without the timer running, this is a country card, I'm going to play this card. And I either do this, play it to get aid or to roll for war, but I can't roll for war because the Soviet Union doesn't have any black cubes there, nor would I want to anyway. I just want to exchange my gold. And when I exchange my gold, I am also able to deploy one regular unit that is communist. Trade 2 of these, and they are 50 each. Put it out of the game. And then I can receive 100. And remember, I don't put this to close because I was replenishing this, not taking out. If I take any one or more out at any point during the turn, that's when I close this here. So this is played, and it gives me the chance also to deploy a regular army that is communist. Do we have any such armies here? It has to be the one on the closest turn to this turn. So that's going to be turn 6. We do have the maneuver army, maniobra. And it's pretty powerful. It gives you 4 layers. You could put it anywhere. It doesn't have a zone. See how handy this is? I could put that army right here, and I didn't have to spend 1 point from my cards to do so. I'm deploying it. It allows me to deploy in this zone, and I can do that. In the original rules, you couldn't put it right next to, there would be zones of control, but the modernized rules allow you to just put it anywhere you want, as long as it is within your lines. I wouldn't be able to put it up here because these are clearly enemy lines. You see all these units are blue units. All these units are blue units, so anything behind that is blue. The same here. That's blue, that's blue. The reds only have a little pocket, so you have to imagine a little bit of a front line there. So obviously you can't put it there. This is an action card, a combat card, special quality. It says E, that's experience. You'll see what that does, but that's for Casado. So I'm going to just take Casado here as a commander, put the guy here in the maneuver army. Can I do that? Yes, I can, because the army has 2 stars, and Casado, he has 2 stars as well. So as long as those match, or the commander's stars are larger than the army's stars, then he can be put there. That army has 2 stars, but I wouldn't be able to put, for example, Vega. Vega I wouldn't be able to. It would be good because Vega is a communist, and that army, as we know, is a communist, has communist infiltration or organization, so that would have been good. But right now, Casado is there because I want to play this card right now for Casado's experience, special quality there. And when I do that, I take this little flag and put it there. And that means when it comes time for fighting, I'll be able to use that. I don't want to use this. You should always keep it for a rainy day. Plus, it's a powerful card. So I'm going to use this for the land action. Pay the 6 points. And the timer starts. And I got 6, and I'm under attack. I got to be very careful. One of the things I'll do is pay 1 point to get these guys off. 1 point. There. And the aircraft can remain there. So these are now unloaded. You can market it with anything you want, just as long as that was a reminder that I wanted to do that, right? Because otherwise I would have forgotten, and this guy would have been an attack. So 1 point for that. 1 point to entrench these guys. They're going to need all the help they can get. Another point to entrench Casado's army here. We got Air Force that's going to be involved, so now we choose. Do I want to take that or that? Do I have any more Air Force anywhere? No, it doesn't seem so. You know that you're at the end of the round here. The enemy has already played. The Blues have already played, so they can't do anything else. If I was to remove everything I have here, he couldn't attack me here anyway, except in very specific circumstances where the card will allow him to, but that's rare. So it's pretty safe for me to deplete this in defense of that there. I got 4 points left, and I'm going to do just that. I'm going to take these tanks, pay 1 point. Actually, I don't want this. This is just 1 combat factor. This is just 2. 2 is good, but if I could, I don't want to take the Army of the Center. That is the most powerful, but it has to stay right there, because if Madrid falls, you are really in a bad way. So how about these guys? They could be there too. They're not going to be able to break through there. Look, the enemy has occupied everything. For me to go to help Badajoz, this is where the transit points make sense, and the roads. I would have to pay to go off-road. I would have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because you'd have to be there, and there's no road connecting here even. So there's no way that them being here would even be able to help these guys. They would have to be, you know, this is pretty hopeless. If Yagüe wasn't here, there'd just be 1 point to move them here. But because he is, it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to go all the way around, because you have to pay 1 to go for each point off the road. But if you're on the road, you can just pay that same 1 point and go through any length. So, you know what? They're pretty useless here. I'm going to keep the Air Force there to help these guys, and I'm going to take this entire force and pay 1 point, making sure that the road is uninterrupted, can't go through there, can go through here. Yeah, so we could just go and follow, and we know we can make it here. Now this is pretty strong. So I just 1 point made the big difference there, and I have 2 points left. Now, all the defense that I need is already there. There's nothing else. And all the defense that I can get there is there. Very good. 1 point to take this away. I almost forgot. See? Now I got powerful Air Force in defense. Let's see what happens with those guys. And I got 1 point left. Usually when I got 1 point left and my strategy has been conducted, I either try to bring a force to a junction like here, or, you know, to block off the enemy plans, or to defend the north a little bit better. I could put one of these, there's 2 of them here, I could put one of these here, but then it spreads it out thin. But that's actually a good strategy. You know what? I'm going to use my last point to do this, to take this and put it here. For what reason? Because if this city is attacked, this is here, and because this is 1 point away, this can be in support of it. So you have two combat factors there that work together. This is attacked, you got this guy and this guy working together. If this is attacked, you got this guy and this guy working together. And if the center is attacked, you got both of them working together, because they are both within 1 transit point of the army under attack there, right? So that's actually pretty good. With a little bit, a tiny thing like that makes a huge difference. But I need to find a way to reinforce that, because it's not going to last forever. I only have 3 transit points, and they're spread out very thin. And as you can see, the enemy has like a good 12 or 13 points here with those armies. So the north is going to fall quickly unless I bring some more forces, perhaps by air or by sea. Time is far spent. Of course, it was spent long before I was explaining all this, but I had about 2 minutes left, or a minute and a half, and that was more than enough to have conducted this strategy. Time is spent. I'm done. I'm going to use this last card to have an opportunity, which I don't always have, to get into a naval fight. 2 points. I pay here, and I'm going to bring out 2 ships against these guys. Actually, come to think of it, all my ships are committed except the battleship Jaime the First. So I'm going to bring Jaime there, and put them in that sea area. Again, there are 4 sea areas: Biscay, Atlantic, Gibraltar, and Mediterranean. And if you want to fight the enemy, you have to take him while he hasn't moved out of his zone there. I'm going to move one of my airplanes. As long as it's within the range of that area there, I can fight it. I'm going to leave the Soviet Air Force there and bring the Republican Air Force. So the last point that I have, I used 1 point for the ship and 1 point for the aircraft. This is naval combat, right? So you are able to move aircraft for naval purposes. This is here. They cannot fight anything else. It's going to be here to attack these ships. The nationalists have the initiative, so they're going to resolve their combat first. Unless, of course, for example, they start here and they lose this battle, in which case the initiative goes to the Republicans, and the Republicans then resolve their attacks. But since, as you can see, the Reds don't have any red triangles, it's basically 2 battles to be resolved for the Republicans, and then we're done. Starting off by adding off the combat factors. Yagüe has 3 CF. He's commanding a force of 5, and that's it. This FET has 2, and they can join the battle because it is 1 transit point away. So this joins the battle, and the Requetés can also join here. 3s plus 5, 8s, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 combat factors. This is the last time that I'm showing you that I'm writing the notes. On the next videos, I'm not going to do that just to make things a little bit faster. They could, if they wanted, bring these aircraft units here. One of them, they could bring it here, but they probably have more than enough strength. Plus, they're really going to need those aircraft that were placed there on purpose to attack the now very strong front in Aragon there, because there's 2 armies that they're against. So this stays as it is, 12. The Republicans, for their part, have Mera with 2, Catalonian Army 3, Soviet Air Unit here plus 3, so that's 8. The Republicans have 8. However, here's an important point. This city is encircled. It's encircled because it is not connected to any other friendly city by road. It was connected to Mérida earlier, and as long as that was the case, then neither city would be encircled. But because it's not now connected to any city, if this was it, the forces within it cannot attack, number 1, and number 2, whether in attack or defense, the forces within it cannot attack, number 1, and number 2, any defending forces can only count on half of their combat factor. So the 8 actually becomes 4. Madrid, for example, is difficult to encircle because, look, it is connected to Aranjuez. If Toledo was on their side, it would be connected to them. It's got all these roads. It's connected also to Guadalajara. So it's difficult to cut off. Guadalajara would have to be taken. Aranjuez would have to be taken. And of course, these have to remain in blue hands for this to be encircled. So it's difficult for that to happen here. In this case, this city here, it's a little bit easier. For example, you would take this is not a city. You would take Valdepeñas and then make sure that this is not connected to any red city. So the objective of the encircling is to cut off any roads that leads to a friendly city. If you can cut off the roads that are linking the city that is under encirclement to any other city that of its color, and that's what we have here, and that's easy to do in this case because we don't have a lot of roads. At this point, after the blue player knows the score of the opponent, he can still, if he wants, bring one of these air forces there, but he's decided to not do that because he really wants to attack Aragon. Just to let you know that even at the last minute, as long as it's before you pay for the combat factors, before you pay, you could still bring any forces. And again, you are allowed to bring this force in without moving it. It's here to include that force, to include any tanks or cavalry, mobile units that are at least within 3 transit points away. But there's nothing else that we can include there. So each force pays for theirs. Now we'll look at the combat factors as usual. Yagwe is, as always, in the Army of Africa. He's got this symbol, that's got that symbol, so therefore he gains 1. The morale is high for the nationalists, that's another. Oh, they have 2 modifiers, which makes their combat factor 14. Our Republican friends have Mera, who has the anarchist symbol there, which is shared by that army, so that's 1 for the commander. 1 for this entrenchment there. They're not behind the river, no, because as you can see, the enemy is attacking through this road, and it's in this part of the city, which is north of the river. And the city of Badajoz has 1 point for garrison value. 4 plus 3, that's a 7. We're going to spend the combat, the attacker. This army is attacking, this is joining the attack, and so is this unit here. It's usually the attacker that has to spend its forces. Once again, I'm reminding you, but the Republicans are using this aircraft unit for land support, not for air defense, because there's no other air force attacking it. So it will be spent because whether in attack or defense, any air unit that is used to support the battle is spent. So let's roll for this battle. Nationalists are going to roll 14. They're going to use these 12 plus 2. You can use any combination that you have. 4, 8, 9. 2/3 of 9 is 6. That's their score. Reds roll a 7. That's a 4. Full fraction. Applying damage. Remove the triangle. These guys struck 6. So that takes care of these 3 points. This goes automatically with it. 3 points. 1 point here for the garrison. So that's 4 points consumed. That's annihilated. And the Republicans struck 4. One of the areas that some folks find a little bit confusing is when you have several units, a wide front here, well, they're all converging, but a wide front, you got units here, here, and here. Which one gets the first hits? Well, we know we have to follow the order of damage here. We do reinforcements first. There are no reinforcements. And we do then regular units or militia, whichever is prioritized. Usually you can choose. I mean, you can choose if this one gets hit first or if this one gets hit first, but you can also choose this. We know, for example, that if you're taking 4 hits, and if you were to choose the Army of Africa to be hit, it means that the 4 hits would eliminate it from the board right now because it's over 50% damage, and therefore it goes into the in this case, a green triangle. It would go into the any turn box. Anyway, it would go into the calendar, right? So it's our best interest to try to have other units hit instead. Out of the 4 damage points, let's take a hit here on these 2. So this is eliminated. And now we could say that the other 2 hits are scored over here, in which case 2 out of 5, it's under 50%, therefore nothing would happen to the Army of Africa. There would be no damage at all. But you can't do that because the rules state that wherever possible, you want to eliminate whole units. Therefore, the unit that was here of 2 combat factors got hit, and now this one, which is also 2 points, 2 combat factors, also gets hit. So if it is possible to eliminate units, that's what the game says that you have to do. Meta, unfortunately, was annihilated. We're going to put this force on the next available regular units. There it is. Has to go over here. Actually, I just realized a little mistake we did earlier on. I placed the Army of the North here, but it doesn't go here because all armies usually go there, as you can see. They go on the next available regular space, in which case this guy goes here. However, I just mentioned the green triangle means it goes here right away. And that's pretty good because that means on the next turn I could deploy it in the north there and save those guys from being destroyed. The north still has a chance. It's okay to, to have forgotten something like that. I could have placed that there earlier, but I think it was it was just destroyed on this turn, as I recall. So we didn't lose anything. We just placed it here now, but we would have done that earlier. So we didn't really lose anything. But even if we have, this is war. War is not an exact science like a board game is. So making little tiny mistakes like that, like I mentioned before, is perfectly okay. Sometimes they're in the favor of one player, sometimes they're in the favor of the other. So Mera lost all the forces under him, so now we have to see what his fate is. He's got a 4. If he got a 1, he would go on probation, but since he doesn't, he can go back here. The blue won the victory in terms of points. As the victor, he gets the flag. We take a look at the flags. We got 2 nationalist flags and no Republican flags on the board, on the map. So therefore, he also gains the initiative. He already has it, so he maintains it. The 2 Republican flags are still here. The nationalists have 2 flags. That gives them a 2-point difference in morale. They remain up, and these guys now go down. So the Reds now have low morale, and the Blues have high morale, which means that these guys are going to lose a demerit on their next battle, and these guys are going to win a modifier. Now we would promote the winning commander, but Yagoy is already at full capacity. He started off with 2 stars, now he's got 3, so no promotion necessary. All that there is left to do now is to roll the dice and advance. He gets to advance to Badajoz, and not a moment too soon. And notice now that he's taken the city, this border is gone. Border is completely closed, or I should say open. It was closed before because the Republicans were there, but now it is open again. This is basically the symbol of closed borders. Portugal has 6 border points. France has 4. If you're on the Republic, well, the Republic wants all these open for them, and the nationalists wants all these open. You just need 1 border open, really, in order for this formula here to work properly, So the borders are not terribly important. Usually, I was never able to close the Portuguese border in all the times that I played the game. It's very difficult. The Republic would have to take over all that territory. But the France border is easy to close. Badajoz has 2 industry points, and we change that here according in favor of the nationalists. With that, we're going to go to the only other battle to resolve here. Before we do that, I'd like to bring to the attention about cards. The Blues have an ace up their sleeve. Not exactly an ace, but a wild card, the Joker. Now, as I explained, movement cards and naval cards for land and sea can only be played during the movement phase. We are now in the combat phase. Well, the phase is the action phase, but during the movement part of the action phase. This is the combat part of the action phase, so we wouldn't be able to do that. But cards like Jokers, or even movement cards for land or sea, the cards that enable you to play the points and move the land and move the ships out to sea, those can be played only during the movement portion of the action phase, right? But all the other cards, including combat quality cards as well, if I wanted to use, if Mola was in the battle and I wanted to use this quality, I wouldn't be able to, because I would have had to have played this card during movement and have placed the flag there for that. And there's only 3 flags, so whoever gets to them first uses them. 1 was already used here by this commander, and those would have to have been placed there. But there's other cards that I can play. I could have played a country card because the timer is not running now during combat. And the reason I bring this up is because the blue player has lured the red armies here of the Republic to this defense, because they thought that it was very weak to do an attack. And it is. It's got 4 against possibly, 15 points here, or at least 10. And given that it's behind the river and everything, this would be a disastrous attack. However, at any point, I can use my joker, and I'm going to use it. Perhaps I can use this one. Move any unit on the map to any city that is not encircled. Perhaps I could still do something here. I got to pick a unit on the map. And is this a city? If it's just a regular yellow point, then it doesn't work. But we know it's a city. It's Zaragoza. And so therefore, I can move a unit into there. And technically, it becomes part of this army. So a unit on the map includes reinforcements. So I could get Franco's reinforcement here, or Davila's. Let's take Davila's. Take this guy. You can do this at any time from under one commander and switch it to the next, provided it goes. It can't go here because this is a red city. It can't go that way. As a matter of fact, this is not even necessary because this is a very special wild card for when your cities are, sometimes it's better used when your cities are encircled. It would have served these guys, the Reds here, well. But, well, they couldn't have done that here because the city was encircled. But let's just say, I'm going to use an example. Let's just say you're defending this city and it's encircled by all sides. So all you have is these two cities. Provided the two cities are connected by roads, they're not encircled. So you could technically bring a unit there at the last minute because neither of them is encircled. So that's what it's for. And you don't even need connecting roads. As long as Zaragoza is not encircled, you could have brought this here, and you did. And now you can put that there. These are all things that are there to be discovered by you if you study it correctly. This thing that I did now, I think it's the first time that I'm doing it, as a matter of fact. I don't recall the last time I pulled the Joker card to put a reinforcement or a unit in the last minutes. But there is a way. Now, whether the opponent gives you time to do that, the rule is usually this. You want to do something with the card that you pulled out, that's what this timer is for. Okay, you got 1 minute to make up your mind what you're going to do. And after that, the opponent can tell you, nope, no more time, you have to attack now. But when you're playing by yourself, it's really cool because most people do, and you have all this to yourself all this time. Let's add the combat factors here for Varela. So we got 1 for the commander, plus 4, plus another 4, 9, 13, 16, and this is not being used, and that's it, 16. The Republicans have 1 plus 3. These are joined because they're 1 transit point away. So that's 4 for the commanders alone. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Nationalists pay 16. These guys pay 11. Let's look at these modifiers. Varela is leading Requete units here, so that's 1. Plus 1 morale for them. The Republicans, this is not a communist army, so nothing there. These guys don't count anyway. Well, you know what? Here's a good point. Can we switch these commanders? I think I've already... No, we can't because Casado's got 2 stars and he's leading a 2-star army, and Modesto does not have 2 stars, so he cannot. If he was promoted, he would have, but he's not been promoted yet, so 1 star cannot lead. He's leading a core unit here. He cannot lead the 2 stars, so the commanders stay as it is. So no modifiers for that, but we do have positive modifier for the entrenchment here. 3 garrison value, so that's 4. The fact that they are across the river, because remember, these guys have to cross the river to attack them. That's another 2, so that's 6. But they have a -1 for morale, so that's 5 total. Nationalists are going to roll 18, and the Republicans are going to roll 16. Remember, there's no air combat to be had because the Republicans have no available air units. They do have these ones here, but these were put here during the naval movement phase, and so they're here to attack these ships later. I'm going to spend all the attacker. Again, these are in air support, ground support. Now it's time to roll. But remember, we played this flag earlier for Casado to have the combat quality. Casado has an E for experience. You roll a D3 and you add that result to your combat factor before combat. So it's an easy way to get some extra points without having to pay for them. 3. So now actually, it's not 16, it's actually 19. Starting off with 11 points and then ending up having 19 to roll with is an excellent defense. We're going to roll 18 for the blue player first. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1/3 of 9 is 3. The Reds roll their 19 points. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Half of 9 is 5. Now we're going to apply the damage. Remove the star flag. These guys get hit 3, so... Well, I guess that will eliminate this core here. We put the Army of the South back into the calendar. Farella's going to take the hits. He gets 5 damage points, that is. So eliminate these first always, the reinforcement layers first. 4 this is worth because it's under this 4. 5 takes care of this. And another point is applied to this, which makes no difference, because that 4 unit gets 1 hit, which is well below 50%, so no hit, no effect. Modesto lost all his units. He got a 1, which means he goes into probation. The only way he's going to get out of here is if we play his commander card, and we sacrifice the card to get him out. The Republic is victorious, and so they get the flag. They get the initiative. The cool thing is, no matter how many battles they lost up to now, because they won this little battle here, they get the initiative. So if they have 1 flag and the nationalists have 2, we can eliminate 2 of these. I mean, this one is canceled by this one, so we could just put them. It makes it easier to count that way. That means the nationalists only have 1 flag. Change the morale accordingly. So if the nationalists have 1 flag only and then the Republicans have none, they still have +1 morale, and the Republicans go back to normal. Casado gets promoted. I don't think this has happened yet. The city was not taken, and there's surviving forces on both sides. That's pretty nice. The Reds have the victory because they have more points, and since they have forces left, they get to roll this dice. But they only get to roll this once because until now, I think most of the times we rolled it twice because all the forces that the side that won the battle, the victorious side, all the forces of the defeated side were completely annihilated. Therefore, he got to roll this twice. But in this case, since there are forces left, the normal procedure is to roll it just once. So here it is for Casado. Advance. He gets to advance now, and automatically these guys get to retreat to the nearest transit points, which in this case it's pretty clear. It's something like, sometimes it's not very clear, but here it is. But you do the best you can. Here is they get to retreat, and look at that. Casado, because he advances, he actually gets to take Saragossa. I'm going to point this out. If Varela had put an entrenchment like Casado had here, a blue entrenchment here, he wouldn't have had to retreat, because no matter what the victor dice is, if you have an entrenchment, that means you stay where you are, even if you're forced by the dice. That also works if you have fortification. What happened in this battle is that Varela attacked with all his forces across the river. He was defeated, and Casado counterattacked and took that ground. That's one of the key purposes of the green dice, is to see what movements take place. Sometimes the victor has to retreat even, although rarely. Sometimes there's a stalemate, and sometimes the victor advances. And the victor doesn't always have to be the attacker. It's whoever won the battle in terms of points. If he has forces left, he is the victorious. So he might have even been the defender, as it was in this case here. These guys were defending, they won, they advanced. These had no protection against the counterattack, so now they took the city, which was worth 3 points, and they get these points back. 1, 2, 3. And with that, the Republic has regained control of all the area east of the Ebro River. All the land combat is done. What's left to do is ocean combat, and we know that the only place where the forces meet is here, in this zone. There are 4 zones, this is one of them, and these 2 forces are in place. This happens similar to land. 4 points and 4 points, we add those up and we pay. Although we also have this air unit here, so the reds are going to pay 6. The blues are going to pay 4. Unlike in land, the main difference here is that the air does not join in the battle with the points. Only the naval units fight each other on the dice roll. But as per naval combat rules, we add the CF, we pay, we did that, and now any air in range rolls against surface units. This air is going to attack the Canadians. They get to make 1 attack only. When bombing naval targets by air, you always roll the 6 dice. 5 damages the ship. If it was a 6, it would have sunk it. We place the black cube there, and it needs to retreat to the nearest port right away. And in order to leave port again, it needs to be repaired. You got to pay the combat factor there. Next thing would be submarines would roll against surface units, and then destroyers would roll against submarines. None of that is here, just surface units are left, so they fight each other. 4 against 2. 2 score and 2/3. According to this, 2/3 of 2 is 2. So because of that, that ship is gone completely, and capital ships cannot return to there. They have to be eliminated completely, and they're out of the game. The Nationalists are going to roll a 2, but we already know that the score would have to be more than 50%, because anything equal or smaller than 50% is a no hit, no effect. So the most the Nationalists could hit would be a 2 if they had a full score on the dice. So you don't even need to fight that out. This ship is saved, and because they are the victors, they can remain here. I forgot to put a spent here. Ships are not spent, only aircraft units, land units. Because these guys won, they can go into their mission. Actually, there was no mission for them because they were just supposed to fight it out. But now that there is, now that they're free, why don't we go here? And since Malaga is blue, these Italian convoys go into Malaga. We're going to disrupt the Italian convoys. And by doing that, we place a cube over Italy there. These countries are in danger of getting into the war. Danger for the Reds. All right, everything done. The action portion of the turn is done. Remember, a turn has 3 parts. It's got the strategy phase, it's got the action phase, which we just played, and now the last quick economy phase. First thing we're going to do is count the gross domestic product. We're going to add all the industry points and the agriculture. And then we're going to multiply it by the depreciation. And that's going to give us resource points. It doesn't matter who goes really now, but the Reds can go first because they are the initiative. So let's count the industry. Industry is 44 for the Reds. To count agriculture, what you do is you count these green large numbers when they are behind or close to, well, behind the lines, if they're in the region that belongs to that side of the war. We know that clearly all these cities are still red here. They're all in the Republican side. We know that this city here is blue, so these points would apply more to the blues. So let's look here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not that because the enemy is there. That doesn't count either because that is, this area is more blue than red. although you could say that this belongs a bit to here, so it doesn't matter. Maybe it's blue, maybe it's red, you decide. Because Davila is here, I would call this blue, but this is like a bit of a 50-50. That's blue. This just became blue as well. All those in the north are blue except for that, so that's 1 point there, and that's about it. So the Republic has 7 agriculture points. I'm writing it out so that it's easy for you to follow along, but usually you don't really need to. It's 51. But we're going to times this 51 by the depreciation. We are on turn 5, and so we have to times that by 0.7. If you round it off, that equals 36. Next thing you would do is you would collect aid from a country that's at war, but we don't have any countries officially at war. We have the Condor Legion, we have the Soviets, we have the Italian. They haven't entered officially. Import disruption. Each side loses 3 RPs for each disrupted convoy. The Reds have 1 disrupted convoy by the Blues, so 1, 2, 3. 3 points per, so that's 3 times 3 is 9. We subtract. They only get 27 total. You can collect those 27 in terms of tokens and then the difference in finance, but because we know that we're going to need the finance and we don't want to go and do that during combat, which means we would close the button, close the box there, we always try to end this with as much finance as possible. So let's collect our 27 points here. The Blues do the same thing. They have 56 industry, 3 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2. A lot of agriculture, and that was the case during the war. 56 plus 18, 74. Times the depreciation of 0.7 equals 52. No countries at war. Import disruption. They are being disrupted here, and I think that's about it. The Reds had protected those ones, their own convoys, they protected it. So yeah, only minus 3 points. 49. They can collect that completely. 1, 2, 3, 4. 49. You want to always end the finance for both sides as high as possible. There are times that you receive a lot of aid, especially if there's countries at war or there's country cards. You could actually play, if you had any country cards left here that you wanted to play, you could do that and receive a little bit more, because you can play those at any time if it's in order to get finance points. So if you get like 100 or 75 or maybe you're at 50 and you get 75, that is going to surpass that. So you're going to put this as high as you can and then collect tokens, or I should say collect the tokens and then get the difference in finance here. Try to end with as much of this as possible. To end the turn, first we return all the ships to port. We remove any unused triangles. Sometimes there's battles that didn't take place because we ran out of money and we couldn't have any more money, and so the triangles were left there. So any triangles that are there, or any star flags also that weren't used, you know, the special combat card flags that were put there, or commander cards. So anything that you see there, triangles or star flags, you take them out and put them back into the boxes and the flags somewhere out of the main map. Very important, don't forget to return these to the open, because remember, if these are closed during the action phase, you won't be able to take these out of here and then replenish your finance. So at the end of the turn, always return this to open. You don't have to worry about remembering this because it's all here. Economy phase, ending the turn, and you just follow along. Now you keep all the cards that were not used here. Unused cards, you keep them here because you were keeping them strategically anyway. The cards that you did play, you're going to collect them and shuffle them back into the main deck. Remember, the reason these cards are normal playing cards is because you can always use this to play regular card games. Return them to the new cards for the next turn. Early on, you don't really need to because it's difficult, but you should check the victory conditions We're on turn 5, going into turn 6. So just read these, make sure that you check them. And finally, you turn this to turn number 6. And here we are. We finished the entire turn number 5. The turn should have taken about 45-50 minutes. Now, with all this explanation, it's a lot longer, obviously, because it's probably 3 times as slow. The next turn that I'm going to do the tutorial for, turn number 6, is not going to be as detailed. If you want detail, you have the rules, and you have this to go through, where I explain everything ad nauseum. The next turn, I'm not going to be using scorecards. I'm not going to show you how I count every single little thing individually. I'm going to take you through the attacks, the movements, all that, but not all the mechanics. Otherwise, we're going to be here till Christmas. And everybody knows that the troops should come home by Christmas. Thank you very much, and stay tuned for the third tutorial of turns, which is action videos. The first one was turn 1 to 4, just a very brief summary, introductory, turn 1 to 4. The second is this one, turn 5, and now we're going to have turn 6.